MSP Unplugged, episode 28. Don't be blindsided. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Let me go ahead and introduce our co-host. We have Rick Smith from Renactus Technologies. Rick, how are you?
I'm doing great, Paco. Glad to be here.
Very cool. Very good. And we have Josh Lamb over from DNSFilter. Josh, how are you today?
Pretty good. How you doing, Paco?
Doing well. Doing well. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just kick it off with the same old deal that we do, is sharing a tip story that we all can learn from. And I'll go ahead and lobby it over to Rick.
Oh, thanks for letting me share. Well, yeah, I guess today I'm going to do a quick story, which will end in a tip. And everybody who knows me knows that we go through a lot of, we talk about a lot of products, a lot of things we're doing, a lot of solutions we're coming up with. And I have so many things in my head that I don't necessarily can always recall exactly what product I'm referring to or what situation. Paco, I know you can attest to this a lot. And one of the things I've started to do is write things down. Because a client asked me the other day, we were talking about just basically about his network. We put some new cameras in the office. And I was trying to explain to him how to basically set up on his phone, how he can look on his phone and see where the cameras are. I'm trying to explain to him how to get the passwords and all this. And for the life of me, I could not remember the name of the app. So we're sitting there and I'm trying to pull up the app and I'm sitting there with this blind spot in my head. Like, what is, how do I get this app? How do I get this app? Of course, the camera system is looking me in the face. It's Real-Link. It was a Real-Link camera system. So I could have just looked at the camera and say, okay, Real-Link, look at the DNS, the NVR. It's, but anyway, my point is in all of this is just write things down. Write yourself some quick notes. I do this a lot when I'm having a conversation on the phone or I'm talking to someone. I don't write notes. I try to keep so many things in my head that I get a little lost. So I guess my tip today is write things down or write yourself a quick note to help you with your memory recall.
No, I think that's a huge tip because I think that's the thing we battle with the most is documentation and being able to not only just documentation for like inventorying systems and logins and passwords, but really being able to document things that you got to do in your calendar. And a lot of people try to, mark it down in calendars. With Jeff's tip many months ago, I've started to utilize the task feature in Outlook. I've also went ahead and started using Microsoft To Do because it integrates into the task system. So I started doing a lot of those, checking off those flags, scheduling everything in the calendar specifically. But one tip that which is not my tip, but one tip is that I've learned is when you're scheduling things in your calendar, a lot of us tend to do it in half an hour, 15 minutes, or hour increments. I've always been told to actually schedule them by the minute, because if you do things by the minute, you'll realize how much more time you have for certain tasks. So a phone call to just follow up or leave a voicemail is probably not 15 minutes, probably 5. So you can knock out 3 of those. And once you kind of start seeing that visual planning of your calendar, it tends to make things go a little bit smoothly. So I try to stay on top of it. But like you said, Rick, it's so hard to try and document and do everything for yourself, which is why I try to get staff in place. And that's a whole nother obstacle that I'm handling as well. So, but yeah, no, appreciate that. Josh, do you have a tip or a story for us this week?
Yeah, definitely. Is 2 allowed? Do two quick ones.
Two quick ones is good.
So I'll do one since you guys are doing business ones. I recently discovered the level 10 meeting from the Traction book with Gino Wickman. And that's been really revolutionary for me, just running meetings for my team. So we really center it around like what's called the IDS, where you list issues and discuss them and solve them. And it's just added a lot of structure to our meetings where instead of being like aimless or anything like that, it's just like, here's what we're talking about. And then we just center the whole discussion of the meeting around that. And so that's been really helpful. My second tip is like really kind of dumb, but with all the coronavirus stuff, I've been drinking a lot more Coca-Cola these days. I think I'm gaining some more weight and everything. And so when you get like a nice big new case of Cokes, I figured you can open both ends of the thing. And then if you do it right, you can line it up with your fridge and like punch all of the Cokes into there versus putting them one at a time. And so it works most of the time until it doesn't, and they all spill on the floor, and then it's worse. But that's my other tip.
Nice. So it's funny you say that, because I've been back and forth on trying with, so my girlfriend works with organizing everything in the apartment and getting into the fridge and all that sort of deal. And she's all about these containers situations. And I was doing pretty much similar to what you do. Instead of opening it from the back, I just kind of just rolled it in as it was kind of going. Well, until it cracked some of these containers, and that was a no-go moving forward. So hopefully the punching through the other side will help me out on that route, but probably not. But what was the name of that book again, so we can make sure we link into the show notes?
Yeah, it's called Traction by Gino Wickman.
Perfect. I will make sure that is in the show notes so everyone can take a look at that. My tip for this week is similar to with the documentation and things of that nature. So not sure if everyone knows or not, but I recently brought on 2 staff members. I brought on a new admin and a new remote tech. So it's been very interesting on making sure that there's a lot of transparency and visibility in all the tool sets, all the procedures, things of that nature, because I've ran the business as a solo tech for so long with subcontractors that the subcontractors never really needed access to a lot of these systems. Now that I actually have actual employees, it's proving to be very interesting. So through all this, one of the items that I put on myself was to audit my systems and figure out how many dashboards am I really managing on either a day-to-day basis or in total that I'm subscribing to. And lo and behold, as I wrote them all down, I have 25 dashboards that I'm running into every single day. So over the next couple of weeks, as we start to look at other vendors for some other networking things, we are going to be consolidating a lot of these dashboards. And really the biggest piece of it is so much to look at one area as our hub. And then basically everything just feeds into that, so that I don't have to log into a dashboard unless I necessarily need to, or looking into other systems. So my tip is for those that haven't taken a look at their stack, which hopefully you have over the last couple months, whether it's on a cost conscious situation or just trying to get the most out of your feature set, definitely make sure to audit your systems, and you'd be surprised on how many you have until you've written them all down. I know that I think Rick had called me right after I wrote them all on the whiteboard, and I just kind of was in a flabbergasted state where I just said, I can't believe how many expletive dashboards that I have. So that's one tip that I want to say is make sure you separate, manage, document all your deals. And then even if you put them all in bookmarks, you have a visual to see kind of what's going on and what you need to do to hopefully consolidate to some tools that you may already have in other pieces of software as well. So that is my tip for this week, or that's a lie for today, because we'll have our Sunday show. But we are going to go in and move into our main topic: protect your users from online security threats and inappropriate content with none other than DNSFilter. But before we go into the actual DNSFilter company and its feature set, Josh, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the industry, kind of essentially your origin story to today.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in IT for a while, most of the time on the tech support side. I would say I'm just very geeky, like a lot of MSPs. I just love to mess with new technology. Right now, that's my Raspberry Pis, those little tiny single board computers, and running Docker on them and stuff like that. And I actually came across DNSFilter. A few employees have had it like this, actually, where you come as a user basically and discover DNSFilter and go, oh, this really solves what I'm looking for. And so I had a similar thing. I was looking to actually filter an internet connection for a friend, and came across different solutions and thought, wow, this is a really slick website. And I went to they have kind of a chat system for their features that were coming up. And I had, so a lot of small internet connections, they'll use dynamic DNS because it changes often their IP address. And so I had asked a question about that with the CTO, Mike Schroll, and he responded to me, and I was looking for a job at the time. So on there, I was like, hey, are you guys actually hiring for any support people? Do you need that? And he was like, actually, yeah, we're hiring our first support person. This is like perfect timing. And so I interviewed and was accepted. So that's how I came on board. The company has grown tremendously fast. Like it's, I've been with the company 2 years, and I'm the director of marketing now. Like it's just grown so fast. I think we went from being 6 people to now just shy of 30. And so it's been really incredible, but that's kind of how I got started here.
Very cool. How long has DNSFilter been around for so far?
It was founded in 2015.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like you said, it's interesting how when you're a user of the system, that's kind of how you run into DNSFilter. So which is kind of my experience with DNSFilter as well. But I think I may have heard of DNSFilter from going through a lot of the trade shows. And I seen some of the booths and understanding what DNSFilter was about. And I think at the time I just didn't see, how did that make sense, because everyone has firewalls and why do I need to have a DNS filter and et cetera, et cetera. But as we all know what happened over the last several months, everyone being remote, it's kind of hard to have a particular firewall without an additional solution in place to kind of monitor, keep everyone safe, and just making sure that, you just don't, help block a lot of the security threats and inappropriate content that might be going on, not only business devices, but also personal and bring your own device, BYOD types, hybrid environments as well. So this was something where I just remember having another one of my flabbergasted moments that Rick is aware of. And I was just driving down Lakeshore Drive, kind of frustrated with, I'm getting kind of tired of trying to figure out what I need to do. And there has to be some type of solution that we need to look into. So I called my good friend, John Dubinsky. We had this conversation, got together with Rick, and we just started our little search, and which brought us back to DNSFilter with a lot of the feature set that DNSFilter has. But in so many words, Josh, why don't you kind of tell us what DNSFilter does and how it's been really helpful for a lot of either end users or MSP IT business owners over the last several months, especially with the work from home situation? Yeah,
absolutely. So, I mean, it's funny you mentioned firewall. So DNS firewall is kind of a good term of explanation for it, but you know as well as Rick that the internet has a phone book, right? And it's DNS. And so it's used in every device, every application, anything that connects to the internet, whether it's your cell phone or your refrigerator that has, a fancy screen, like everything uses DNS. And so it's the perfect way to actually filter out internet threats. The weakness with firewalls that you'll see, I mean, I can talk about this a few different ways. With the work from home situation, the fact that people are on their home networks means that they're a lot less protected, because the firewall that you're going to find in a consumer router is just, frankly, it's not going to be the same as what you have at work. And so you need something that's going to be able to protect you in that context as well. But it does something uniquely, which is that if you can block it at the DNS level, you can block it from ever happening, right? If you click on a phishing link in your email, you won't be able to access that website entirely. So it operates before something like an antivirus would operate in, even in certain contexts, a firewall would be able to see something. So if it can block it at the DNS level, then it's just dead in the water, and all your clients are safe, whatever device they're on.
Yep. Very cool. And then I know that with DNSFilter, you do get a lot more flexibility of how you apply this as well, which was a big piece for us. Not only can you apply it on the network side of the house, but you can also install it on an actual agent on a user's PC. So it's essentially a roaming profile or a roaming client that travels with it as well. Do you want to talk a little bit more about how that kind of works and all that sort of deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have roaming clients on every device that you can have. So whether it's Android, iOS, Mac, or Windows. And the way that works is now, instead of on the network level, you're able to have an individual policy for that device or for that user. And then wherever they go, whether that's on their home network, work, coffee shop, then they're protected that way too. So it's a really lightweight way to do it. I mean, everything we do is pretty lightweight because all of the work happens on our infrastructure. So it's really just changing the DNS setting on your computer. Like I know before we started going live, Rick, you were talking about the 127.002 that gets set. So that's really all. It's just making sure that your DNS traffic's going to us. So it's a really easy way to make sure that you're filtering however you want on each of your devices.
Very cool. And then actually, as you just mentioned, Rick, when because you're just starting to get into this with DNSFilter and starting to deploy some of those items, what are you looking to hopefully solve with DNSFilter's software? What's the problem you're trying to solve so that essentially your clients are not blindsided, as Jeff put in the title?
Well, it's twofold. One, it's funny, is I've been a partner of DNSFilter maybe a month and a half, and like everything else, I've had it. I just haven't had time to deploy it. So I wish I would have taken advantage of when the corona hit here, particularly in New Jersey. We were earlier with going to shutdown, and it was a mad rush to get everyone set up basically for work from home. So purchasing a lot of laptops, setting them up, helping people get back into their networks from home. So at that point, it would have been smart for me to take advantage of it, which I didn't. But right now, we still have the same issue. We have a lot of clients that are still working from home, and we had a couple of machines that had to come back for whatever reason. Clients, you send a machine home with an employee, their kids get a hold of it, somebody gets a hold of it, So I had one client who basically kid filled up the hard drive with games, so the drive is all full. So we, take it back, clean it up. So now I deployed. Yesterday was the first time I deployed DNSFilter. So I deployed it to all of those, to one company that has internal people coming back to work, and they have, I think it's seven remote workers right now. And what they're going to start doing is basically they're going to be alternating who's in, who's out. So but all of the machines are owned by the company. So each employee will have their own laptop they're going to take back and forth. So that for me solves a big problem. Again, like we're talking about working from home, and you're using your consumer router. You can go wherever you want. Now I can stop this kid, somebody's kid from, downloading, a half a gig, 500 gigs of Steam games and things like that. So, that's a practical situation for working from home. And then another situation working in the office, the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong with this will still be a better filter than the firewall filter will be, or a more efficient filter than the firewall filter will be. So even from work, people use a lot of lag time to go places they shouldn't go, not necessarily, whether it's on purpose or not. So this will help to solve that problem, give everyone a much more cleaner browsing experience and cut down on some of my headaches.
Yep, absolutely. You got it. Because the firewall, it has its use, but the problem is when something's an emerging threat or anything like that, it doesn't know about it. And really the thing that separates us is that because we get all this DNS traffic, we're able to actually fire off our machine learning based on what we see. So we can stop even the first person from getting to a threat because we're able to scan it ahead of them being allowed to visit it. So that's something a firewall is just always going to have that lag time. They have to update their definitions on the firewall side to be able to start blocking new things. So yeah, it's just efficient and fast and very comprehensive.
Yeah, I think, and that's one thing to really highlight too, is that, DNSFilter is not just looking at a set of lists or a blacklist to try and understand what's a threat and what's not, like other services. You all have, my understanding, your own proprietary type machine learning and other items that are really understanding, like you say, like emerging threats and things like that, where you can actually block them a lot sooner than it even getting onto a particular list. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times when people talk about AI, they try to be like really enigmatic about it, like, yeah, we have this magic AI and it does everything and it makes it all better, but really when you unpack it, like we look for over 30 different markers on a page that indicate maliciousness, basically. So when someone attempts to visit a site and they're on our network, we take that information, we go, okay, and then we basically browse it ahead of them being able to look at it. And so we have these 30 different markers that we go through. We make sure that we don't, block google.com or anything like that first, right? And then we go through and look for that. So whether it's got like fake tech support, images and words, some of the, if the SSL doesn't match what it's supposed to be. And so if you think about the types of things that if you were a human being, okay, this looks fishy, this looks fishy, this looks fishy, but it's just way faster. It's able to do that at computer speed versus human speed. So that's really what for us, I would say. We have like charts and stuff on our website that kind of really, we don't try to be secretive about it. Like this is how it works and all of that. But so that's really what separates us from some of the other people that do similar things to what we do.
Gotcha. And I think one of the other things I like to highlight, at least from my perspective, is, the way that the dashboard is set up is so much cleaner than a lot of the others. I think the ability of being able to identify what's going on is pretty easy. And that was a big thing for us is, for me and John, we're trying to adhere to the NIST cybersecurity framework as much as possible, and identify is one of those components. And how do we identify as much as possible when we need to? And not only do you have a granular way of determining certain things that are going, such as like top domains, blocked, allowed, the number of requests, you do have the ability to see it all as an overview for all your clients in an MSP dashboard, which I don't know if we want to maybe wait till later on to that or talk about that now. That kind of gives that overall view of all your clients, and then kind of going into each individual client in detail if you needed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really built for MSPs. That kind of comes out of our history. So our founder actually, was an MSP and was an OpenDNS customer, and he really loved it a lot. Like in the beginning stages, like really loved the product. But then when it got acquired, then the price went up. Like couldn't get a hold of support as much, and I mean the price was really a big factor for him because he got priced out of it being something he could use, reasonably. And so he said, is there other services out there? And there really wasn't anybody that was like robust, like reliable. There's people like sort of did it on the side, and you still kind of have that today where sometimes it's like an antivirus vendor or something like that. And they kind of have DNS filtering as an add-on type product to what they do. But he said, right, I just want to do something that's just purely this. Because I see how that can be used for security. So that's really the big thing. And so the dashboard has all of this MSP capability built into it because that's, what he wanted and what he needed for his own business. So,
yeah. And even down like to what you said too, as far as robust as it is, a lot of us who are IT business owners that are doing residential recurring services, right? I think we can argue now that a lot of our business clients are now trying to transition into the residential quote unquote market. And we had to treat them in that way like we used to. For those that had started off with residential as well. And this is a great opportunity to kind of monitor a lot of that information as well, especially with everyone home. But another piece to that of the identify is when they do encounter a problem. So if they do get into something that has been blocked or whatever the case may be, DNSFilter, from what I've seen, has made it very easy with a nice block page that you can customize as your own page because it's coming from you, typing in some of the text as you see fit. But it doesn't stop there. It's actually allows you to make a submission to the IT company who owns that DNS filter, clicking it and actually filling out the information of, hey, this is who it is. Here's the information, and send. And what's really great about that is that us as the IT business owner or our techs, when we get the emails, trying to figure out what URL were they on that kept getting blocked, because it could be 15 million websites that is a CNAME somewhere very buried inside that URL. But being able to have that submission allows us to see it and actually go ahead and whitelist it, which is an even easier piece as well. But I'll kind of just throw it back to you, Josh, on the whitelisting component and how that flow kind of works when someone does encounter an issue that may be something that needs to be whitelisted, that's blocking, and maybe some of the categories or the ability of blocking the categories, and how that blacklist and whitelist works.
Yeah, definitely. So from what you're talking about with the block page, yeah, you can do fully customized however you want, have your logo on it. That's a, really good recurring reminder that they're being protected and things are working. But they can submit it. A lot of MSPs, what they do is they hook it up to their ticketing system email. So it's just seamless. Anytime somebody has any kind of an issue or they request it to be unblocked for them, that it can just go right into your ticketing system and you can deal with it that way. But the white labeling and block labeling that we have, the way that we do it is it's a wildcard based system. So you have a lot of flexibility. Like if I typed in com into mine, like for .com, I'd actually just be blocking all .com domains on the whole internet for me for accessing it. So it's good for geo-blocking if you want to block like Russian domains and things like that, like big sources of phishing or, just domains you don't even want people to be able to access. So you have really good flexibility there. But I want to highlight with the block page, you can, like the way that our system is set up, it's completely white labelable. A lot of our competitors, they'll do kind of co-branding, and we don't really get into that game. If you want it to be completely from you as an MSP, then there won't be any indication it's from us. So you can provide that to your customer, and it's just kind of preserves that relationship you have with them. Because we don't want to step in the middle of that. That's something that's your relationship with them. And so we think it's best if it, comes from you and they get to see you as the face of it.
Yep. And exactly how you mentioned, we actually have that set up in our Synchro PSA ticketing system, where we have an alert system that goes in, it'll log the ticket. We have it where it identifies by the 4-letter designator that we list for all our clients, so we know who it is, and we kind of trigger some stuff off of that response as well. So it's become very helpful for us, especially when we first started rolling it out. We had the ability to create a newsletter for an instruction of, hey, this is how you want to report the issues, instead of, hey, my thing is blocked via an email, right? So that's kind of what we have done on our side, is make a screenshot, sent out a newsletter. Hey, here's the click here button that's on the bottom. Here's where you fill it out. And we've been getting a lot more requests from that, because what I really love is when we get that URL and we can't readily see it as far as what's being blocked on it, because as you mentioned, there is a way of blocking by category as well in the filtering stage or the blacklist stage of the policy. And you can give a policy for each different one, but it lets you know why it was blocked. So when you add it to the whitelist, it'll say it's in the game section, it's in this section, it's whatever. And if it happens to be of something you checked off, now you understand what's going on. So for example, where for me, I ended up flagging weapons, because it was on the default setting, and I had someone report that they were looking for a hunting rifle. So it turned out that that was something I needed to enable for this client, so I ended up unchecking that for everyone for the policy. So it's things like that where you don't really think of the use case because you see those categories, but as you kind of get that request and they kind of start getting filtered in, you understand the use case, why someone may need it, and you can do it on a policy level, or you can do it on an individual level as well, from my understanding with each individual client, in the way that you can modify those policies as well, which is where a lot of systems you can't really do on a user basis. My understanding, some of them are just by a site basis or a client basis as well. So that flexibility has really been helpful as well.
Right. Yeah, we can do it by user, and then we just released Active Directory recently, like full Active Directory support last month. So Yeah, it's like it couldn't be more easy now because you can just run a little connector. And then if you already have your group set up, then you can just push it to us. And so you don't have to maintain like two separate, identities or anything like that. As soon as people are entered in one group in Active Directory, then they'll be filtered a certain way. So it's really smooth.
Very cool. Very cool. Let me see. What else do we want to talk about? I think, Rick, you got any questions as far as that? Because I know with you kind of deploying this all, not sure if you had anything that you may have ran into that, as far as what DNSFilter does or something that you had a curiosity on.
Well, actually, one of the questions that I had yesterday and answered this morning, which was the same thing you just talked about filtering out per individual, as per deployment, as opposed to just for the whole organization. So I know that is going to be an issue for a couple of clients who have owners who want to be able to just go wherever they want to go. I'm going to mention what kind of sites, but they want to be able to go wherever they want to go, and don't necessarily want everyone else to be able to do the same thing. So I think that is a definite plus, because I don't need to explain, but it's a little pain in the neck way if you're going to do it through some of our firewall situations. So that's definitely a plus, and it's definitely makes things a lot simpler for me.
That's good. Yeah, there's always those distinctions. It's like students and teachers, or bosses and employee. There's kind of always that.
He can go here, but she can't go there, and vice versa. And so this makes it a way. You just you'll have to learn a little bit, and you'll filter it down for each individual, or But it's definitely for me. Now again, I've been in here a day, but it's definitely, it seems to me like this is going to work out good for me. So
that's good to hear.
Yep. And then especially that, like you said too, where piecing back where I was saying for the whitelist, if you don't want to whitelist the actual URL to figure out what it is, there are other tools such as a domain lookup that you can do just from that alone versus you whitelisting it and then seeing what it is and pulling it back off in case you're trying to troubleshoot why something's being blocked as well. So I think that's been very cool on being able to do that, along with some of the other features that you have for being able to limit some of the information being collected. So I know that you guys, I don't know if you would say that you are GDPR certified, but I know you have a component in there for GDPR. Can you go a little bit more for those dealing with that compliance?
Yeah. That's really just to protect some of the user information from being transmitted. If you don't want that, when the Roman clients are passing different information back and forth, we have a setting globally that you can just switch on GDPR compliance so that you're making sure that you're not transmitting the PII, right, personal identifiable information. So yeah, we have that setting available that you can use.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break really quick. Double. But I wanted to go into after this, the reporting component. I know there's a lot of features that we can do in there as far as like exploring and monitoring and kind of seeing some of the threats and alerts. But before we go into that, I wanted to thank everyone. And if you would like to support this show, go to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. We want to, again, continuously thank those that continue to support us and encourage you to tune in every Sunday to join this fine programming. So if you do, again, would like to support the show, patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. A couple of the features you get by joining the group is you'd be able to join the Facebook. It used to be called the secret private group. It used to be called the secret group. Now it's the private group. I don't know what they're going to rebrand it again next time, but essentially you gain access to a closed Facebook group that is managed by myself and Jeff. And the reason why we are very proud of this group is because we have a very zero tolerance for making people feel stupid in the situation. So a lot of people are afraid in a lot of these other Facebook groups to ask questions because there are a lot of know-it-alls who believe that they are stuck in their own way, who think that they have the factual one-way answer and that needs to be the all in how things need to be done, which is not the case all the time. And if you believe that, you're wrong. So The opinions of everyone is always welcomed. And no matter what the question is, there is no such thing as a stupid question because we have all been there at one point or another. So we really encourage those that are in our group to ask those type of questions. It's been a very great community. We have not had much any issues for that type of situation, but that's the reason why we started that, just to have a home for everyone to really just ask their question, not have to worry about being feeling like they're dumb or if their question is even valid, even if it's something off the wall. Again, we make sure we welcome everyone so we can get those answered and just encourage everyone to be, neighborly. And if we don't see that, we will ban them right away because we just don't condone that. So if that is something you're interested in, again, patreon.com/MSP Unplugged, and Jeff will go ahead and take care of you from there. And again, appreciate all the support. All right. So going to go ahead and wrap back around to the reporting feature of DNSFilter. We have Josh Lamb here from the company. As we were kind of going through everything as far as the granularity, the flexibility, the ability of being able to identify and see a lot of what's going on with an endpoint in the network, we have the visibility of the great reporting features that we have available. Do you want to kind of highlight a couple of those as we kind of go through, or what's kind of maybe your favorite that you see that DNSFilter has provided and is always expanding on and making better?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest recent improvement that we've had is it's called the Data Explorer. And you can actually go in and like really slice and dice the reporting how you want. Before we had the same as a lot of people have, where it's just a static type of report. So you could see the top threads, the top domains that are being accessed and things like that. But really it's more helpful to be able to pinpoint, what is Paco doing? Like if I wanted to just look at his queries and what he's been up to, what threats he might have accessed or sites he's tried to visit, it's more helpful to do that. So with the Data Explorer, you have kind of this, I want to call it 3D, I guess. It's not like it's a 3D chart or anything, but it's like, it's multidimensional. You can drill into different aspects of the reporting and really see where people are going. So that's the biggest improvement. We've done one version of that. And then as people ask for more capability, then we add that to, we have a pretty public feature request system. So people can come on and leave us feedback and vote on different features. And so it's pretty open, and we want to develop the features people are actually looking for and want to use. So
very cool. And yeah, and like you said, that interactive dashboard and being able to, in the reporting for the Data Explorer, the way that you can drill down is very impressive. You can go down by, I think it's what I saw, by domain, you can go by site, you can go by category. There's quite a few things on like roaming clients and going even deeper into that, seeing, down to the threat is what I saw from there as well. Mm-hmm. Being able to see the total request, which I think is really cool because we do get a weekly report from DNSFilter kind of explaining what's going on. And I think what's really cool is not only the amount of requests that were made, but also the amount of threats it saw as well. Mm-hmm. And then being able to bring down the summary of it all on the bottom, really saying, hey, here are the top 3 domains that we saw requests coming from, and kind of going from there. So I thought as far as a summary executive report is really cool, really helpful. With a lot of the threats and alerts and things of that nature. But another company that has a really great reporting is Huntress as well. That has a great summary report. And I know that you did something with Huntress, I believe recently, if I'm not mistaken, with a collaboration on a project.
We did, yeah. We're really excited about it. Actually took a few months to do, and was really cool. So kind of the backstory of it is that we looked around and we saw kind of the common narrative is that, like, okay, there's these threats out here. Here's the stats on how bad they are. And you can pass anything, like Barbara Cochran just lost like $400,000, like the Shark Tank lady, to a phishing scam. I mean, there's stats all over the place that, this is a real threat, constantly attacking people. And we said, well, the narrative really is kind of use our solution or things like that. And, it's a lot more nuanced than that. There's tools, but there's also processes. And so we thought, how can we help MSPs really guide their customers forward in terms of security maturity. So like how you mentioned the NIST framework, we thought there's got to be a way to take these different ideas and really coalesce them into just a really good plan and a really good path. And so we got together and we just released this 24-page PDF on basically exactly that. So we took the C2M2 framework, the cyber security maturity model that's used by the Department of Energy, and we've really distilled that down into something that's digestible for MSPs, really a great way, because the framework itself is kind of like academic, it's like not really like extremely readable. So we try to make it, a lot better for people. And so it helps you to really just talk to your customers about here's where you are in terms of cybersecurity maturity, and here's where you need to get to. So it really places, both DNSFilter and Huntress and others, into a defined, like, here's the tools you need, here's the processes you need, and here's how to get there, which really helps MSPs to go, okay, here's how I can have this conversation with my customers and not make it seem scattered and like, oh, you need to do 2FA and you need a password manager and you need DNSFilter, like, just kind of places everything. So.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful because like what a lot of us, and probably Rick can agree, is that as all over the place we are, having something very concise on a document to really stay toward, especially when it's something like this, where I still believe a lot of us just are kind of just making our way through and trying to do the best we can, without really understanding what really needs to be done in our own tool set. Like, I think a lot of us have heard like, yes, we need to do 2FA or we need to be better about cybersecurity. But I feel there's a lot of us that may not know, how do I get started or where do I go? There's no one guide I can look at, or there is a guide, but I have no idea what the heck they're saying in this guide, because 1,500 pages of it has nothing to do with me. And the 27 that it does, I don't even know what they're trying to tell me. I think I know what they're saying, but it's vendors like partners like you and Huntress and Paxaid and quite a few of those guys that are trying to get all this information in a way so that we can digest it better. Mm-hmm. And not only if we make our jobs easier, as John Dubinsky always says, it makes our clients' lives a lot easier when it comes to security and protection and things of that nature. So for those that wanted to get that white paper, is there a URL or a link that they can go to get that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, it's just released. I think we do have a landing page up, but if you email sales@dnsfilter.com, we can send it over to you really easily and get you to that. Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's a good collaboration just to contribute to the MSP space, because we see so much data and we see, and I like the framework too, because it's not like we just made it up, like the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, like all these people that have been dealing with critical infrastructure for decades have a lot to teach the MSP space. And so, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll have that in the show notes for how to get a hold of that. But yeah, I think, why don't we go ahead and wrap it around? Josh, is there any thing we may have missed or anything that we didn't touch on when it comes to the platform or just DNSFilter as a company?
I would say in terms of the future, we've got some good, really exciting partnerships that we've come up with. So one of them, we're about to really have Lenovo Land School. They're doing an education partnership, and that's really exciting to just help, especially with coronavirus, where students are now working from home, they're on their Chromebooks and things like that. So really been excited to see that happen. For us as a company, I think the product is just developing so fast, and I'm really excited to see, like, the dashboard right now looks good, but like we're in the middle of a redesign that makes it kind of look like Airbnb or Uber, like just really easy, really slick, really modern. And I think the last thing would be that we're really trying to contribute a lot of what we see to the MSP space. So we started doing this thing called Phishing Friday, where we just share a lot of the phishing threats that we've been able to block and see come through our system. And so, just a lot more like that, where we're able to share the data and the analysis from that with MSPs so that you guys are able to see that and act on it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Rick, any final thoughts, questions, concerns, comments?
No, I've been, as we've been talking, I went and I was looking at the reporting, which I'm very impressed with, and just look, and the dashboard is great. So I'm actually excited. It took me a while to get to this point, to get on, which is my thing. I'll have something and discover it, finally be like, wow, that's great. And you'll say, I've been telling you that for 6 months, but anyway, but I'm really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it making a positive contribution to my business. And that's probably what's most important.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. We are a DNSFilter client. We've been rocking it for the last several months. When we had that need, it's been doing really well for a lot of just everyone working remote and, in the office as well. So all around, it's been helping us for what we need for our visibility, for the protection. It's easy to use. I encourage those to, who are curious, just to reach out to DNSFilter. You'll reach one of their sales guys. Hopefully, if it's Kevin, let them know that we talked about him, and Kevin helped us out and took care of us. So hopefully he'll be able to take care of those who reach out as well, or anyone that at the DNSFilter. I think those guys really show, and Josh can probably attest to this, their passion for just security in general. I think it showed really well when DNS kind of became a really big topic over at Tom Lawrence's YouTube channel, Lawrence Systems. So if you haven't seen that episode and the follow-up episodes, kind of just talking about DNS in general and how they all fare, and how, really DNSFilter is doing things a lot differently in a different mindset to help protect those that are, trying to take care of, just DNS as a whole. So encourage you to take a look at that, look at the KBs, look at the informations, white papers, and a lot of the things that DNSFilter has coming out here in the near future. But Josh, I really appreciate you coming out here today. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, or what is the best way to reach out to DNSFilter in general, how can they go ahead and reach out?
In general, I would say, sales@dnsfilter.com. Obviously, Kevin's a great guy, so those guys are great, and they'll be able to help you out. We're really tied together between sales and support too. So if you need any help setting up, kind of like Rick was mentioning, if you need anything, it's pretty smooth overall. But I would say, if you need us, we're very accessible. And myself, I'm just Josh@dnsfilter.com. So if you want to email me, you can do that too.
Very cool. Very cool. Rick, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, how can they go ahead and get a hold of you?
You can reach me at rick@renactus.com. I'm semi-active in Facebook. I'm trying as much as I can to stay away from it, but I do go on every now and then, particularly for the secret group.
Very cool. Very cool. And we appreciate your contribution there. And I appreciate you coming out on a midday Thursday afternoons. I know they were all busy with work, so I do appreciate that. All right, everyone, come join us every Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Daylight Savings Time, as I like to poke at Jeff about Daylight Savings Time. It's an ongoing thing that we have because he likes to say Eastern Standard Time, which he'll probably say this Sunday. As you notice, it's Thursday. We are trying a couple new things, ideas. Josh was able to come out on a weekday, which is what we're testing out for some of the vendor shows. Let us know what you think. There is probably no plan to move the Sunday timeframe as of now. We may just be complementing the Sunday show with a couple shows here and there with vendors, topics, and panels as well, which I'm working with one on how to manage a remote workforce. So that'll be coming with the return of our good friend Matthew Rodella over at Tech Marketing Engine, and another surprise guest, which I will confirm with him once he gets back to me. But watch live and hang out in the chat room over at youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and your favorite podcasting app to never miss an episode if you prefer the audio version. But we love to see you here so we can interact and engage with the community. Thank you for listening. We will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.